This is WFYI News Now. It's October 21st, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, a bipartisan push against AES Indiana's price increase. Members of the Indiana Black Legislative Caucus urge GOP colleagues to fight back against redistricting calls. And a joint investigation by Indy Star and Mirror Indy reveals Mayor Joe Hogsett's administration potentially overlooked conflicts of interest involving development deals steered by former Chief of Staff Thomas Cook.
He starts signing up big-name developers who are seeking taxpayer incentives for development projects.
Those stories coming up, but first. Carmel's Christkindlmarkt is set to debut a free shuttle service. With over 250,000 visitors expected at the market this year, the shuttle will help alleviate any parking challenges. The ADA accessible service will only run on Saturdays and Sundays throughout the market season, utilizing 2 buses. Market shuttles will run every 15 minutes, picking up visitors from a lot nearby and dropping them off at one of the entrances. Carmel's Christkindlmarkt will be open from November 22nd to December 24th this year. A bipartisan majority of Indianapolis City-County Council members have spoken out against AES's new plan to raise electricity prices. Jeremy Rubin has more on the settlement between the utility company and the city, official responses, and how citizens can make their voices heard.
AES's settlement, filed with the city last week, would raise residential customers' electricity prices by a bit over 6%. Other terms of the settlement limit future price increases and address fees arising from AES's faulty billing system. On Friday, 16 councilors signed a statement opposing the settlement, urging city officials to reject the new plan. Councilor Jesse Brown, who signed the statement, says he's frustrated with the mayor's administration in the face of both official and grassroots opposition to AES's plans to increase prices.
It's bipartisan opposition to this. We've seen Governor Mike Braun at least posting on social media that he doesn't think AES should be raising prices at all. And so it's, again, disappointing for the city of Indianapolis under Joe Hogsett to be going against what seems to be the consensus opinion.
Public comments about the settlement are being accepted through the Office of Utility Consumer Counselor. Those comments must be submitted 1 week before an official hearing, which has yet to be scheduled. I'm Jeremy Rubin.
Lawmakers from the Indiana Black Legislative Caucus are calling on their Republican colleagues to fight back against a congressional redistricting push from the Trump administration. Lauren Chapman reports lawmakers say Hoosier voters of color would be most disenfranchised by gerrymandered districts.
The congressional districts targeted by the federal push represent Northwest Indiana and Indianapolis. IBLC President Representative Earl Harris says those districts make up nearly half of Indiana's black population. He says redistricting isn't just a map-making exercise, but is a power-shaping decision.
And when that power is manipulated, it's communities of color, they will pay the price in representation, in resources, and in respect.
Harris says opposition to redistricting is bipartisan. Several Republican lawmakers have spoken against redrawing districts. Following Vice President J.D. Vance's most recent visit, Republican legislative leaders said they expected to make a decision soon. I'm Lauren Chapman.
And for our final story today. A joint investigation by Indy Star and Mirror Indy reveals Mayor Joe Hogsett's administration potentially overlooked conflicts of interest that were tied to more than $80 million in city-backed development deals. I spoke with Mirror Indy reporter Peter Blanchard about what he and the team uncovered during the investigation. What first prompted you and your team to dig deeper into the Hogsett administration?
Last year, several women came forward to describe accusations of sexual harassment and abuse of power against Thomas Cook, who was Mayor Joe Hogsett's chief of staff from his first term in office to around 2015 until the end of 2020 when he left. In the course of that reporting, we learned about Cook's actions after he left city government and began working for this law firm in the private sector. That's when we began to hear from sources about this relationship Cook had that had led to him being asked to resign from city government. It was a prohibited relationship with a subordinate. Her name was Scarlett Andrews, and after Cook left city government and became a partner at this law firm, he starts signing up big-name developers who are seeking taxpayer incentives for development projects. And meanwhile, the person that Cook had a relationship with, Scarlett Andrews, she at the time was working in the Department of Metropolitan Development, which is the agency charged with awarding those incentives. And after he leaves government, she gets promoted to lead that department. So pretty quickly, starting in 2021 and going through till the end of 2023, you have a situation where Thomas Cook is on one side of the negotiating table representing developers. You have Scarlett Andrews representing the city, and you quickly have an appearance of a conflict of interest here.
What were some of the most surprising or revealing things uncovered during your reporting?
One of the striking things about this was the fact that this relationship, the mayor became aware of it in October of 2020 when a report was filed to the HR director notifying them about this relationship. The HR director did an investigation, and they recommended that Cook be terminated and that Scarlett Andrews not be promoted. The mayor, however, decided to hire outside legal counsel, and they came to a different conclusion, recommending that Cook be allowed to resign and that Scarlett Andrews be promoted to the Department of Metropolitan Development, the director position there. So that was a surprising find. I think just the amount of incentives, more than $80 million in city incentives were recommended or awarded to clients of Thomas Cook.
So how will you and your team continue to follow this story?
This first story was really the first in a series, and we're calling the series Mr. Clean, and that's because way back in 2013, when Joe Hogsett was U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Indiana, a good government group called Common Cause Indiana gave him the award of Mr. Clean, and he got this award for increasing prosecutions against public officials accused of corruption. And, what we found in that investigation is that, it appears that the mayor hasn't necessarily lived up to that promise. And so I think what you're going to see in our future reporting is more concerns about ethics and, potentially flouting of the ethics code by members of the Hogsett administration. Anytime there is an appearance of impropriety and anytime there's a conflict of interest that involves taxpayer dollars, we think the public has a right to know about it.
What kind of response have you seen or heard from the public since the story was published? Several
city-county councilors have, criticized the Hogsett administration for, basically allowing this to happen. It's unclear at this point whether council is going to take any action. However, we have seen already one councilor, Republican Michael Paulhart, has called for the mayor to resign in the wake of our reporting, and that's now 5 out of the 25 city-county councilors have called for the mayor to resign in the past year or so.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Indy Star reporter Tony Cook and Mirror Indy reporter Emily Hopkins were a part of the reporting team. That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Zach Bundy, with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal Estes. Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.